In a small village surrounded by trees and wide fields, there lived a beautiful young woman named Amarka. She had a secret one she was proud of. Every day she would sit with her friends boasting about the man she would marry. Chucka, my husband is coming home this weekend, she would say, her voice full of excitement. Her friends would listen with envy, for Chucka was a man of great wealth. He had traveled far away to a land beyond the sea where gold and riches were plenty. No one knew what he looked like, but they all knew that he was important. His family was rich, and when he returned, he was going to take Amarka away to live. In a grand house, far from the village, Amarka's parents had made the plan long ago. When Amarka was just a baby, her parents promised Chucka's parents that she would marry their son when he returned. All these years, Amarka had never met Chucka, but it didn't matter. She had grown up hearing stories of his greatness. She was proud to be the chosen bride of Chucka, the wealthy man from far away. The whole village knew about this marriage. Everyone talked about how lucky Amarka was. Amarka is going to live in the city. She will be rich, her friends would say. They all dreamed of living the life she would have, away from the quiet village life. When the day finally came, Amarka was beside herself with joy. Her heart raced as she prepared for Chucka's return. The village was full of life. The women gathered to cook, the children ran through the streets, and the men set up a large celebration. There would be dancing, singing, and gifts. The whole village was ready to welcome Chucka home, but Chucka's return was not like anyone had imagined. On the day he was supposed to arrive, a large black car rolled into the village. The car was tinted so dark that no one could see inside. The villagers stopped in their tracks, their eyes wide with curiosity. They knew it was Chucka. But something felt strange. The car stopped in front of Chucka's house. The villagers stood around it waiting for him to step out, but the door didn't open. No one saw Chucka's face. They could only see a shadow through the dark windows. The villagers began to dance and sing in front of the car, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man they had heard so much about. But Chucka's car did not stop. It slowly rolled into the compound and the door of the car opened. A tall figure stepped out, wearing all black with sunglasses covering his eyes. His movements were slow and deliberate. He walked toward the house, never looking at the crowd. The music and dancing stopped. Everyone stared in silence as the mysterious man walked into the house and disappeared inside. He didn't even greet anyone. Amarka, who had been waiting anxiously, rushed forward. "Chucka?" she cried, but he didn't answer. She followed him inside, her heart racing with excitement. But when she reached the door, it was locked. She knocked, but there was no reply. The hours passed and the villagers began to leave. The celebration had died down and the night came. But still, Chucka didn't come out. His parents, who were getting old, knocked on his door. "My son, come out. The whole village is waiting for you. Even the king's representative is here to meet you." But Chucka stayed inside, peeping through the window blinds, avoiding the crowd. Amarka's heart sank. She was disappointed. This was not the reunion she had dreamed of. Why wouldn't he come out and greet everyone? The village had waited so long for his return, and now he was hiding. But Chucka's mother, worried about her son, spoke softly, "Let him be. Maybe he's tired after the long journey." She didn't want to believe that something was wrong. As the night grew darker, Amarka began to feel the sting of loneliness. But just then, Chucka came out of his room. He was wearing the same thick, black clothing and dark sunglasses. He looked strange. He didn't seem like the man she had imagined. Without saying much, Chucka grabbed Amarka's hand. "Let's go to your parents' house," he said in a cold voice. Amarka was too excited to question him. She nodded and followed him into the night. The village was quiet now. The only sound was the crunch of their footsteps on the dirt path. When they reached her parents' house, Amarka's family greeted them warmly. But as Chucka stepped inside, the air grew heavy. He didn't take off his sunglasses. He didn't greet anyone. Instead, he pulled out a thick wad of money and placed it on the table, smiling coldly. Amarka's family was overjoyed. "You are too kind, Chucka," her father said. "This is a blessing for our daughter. She will live well with you in America." But something was wrong. Chucka wasn't speaking much, didn't seem excited. His eyes were hidden behind the dark glasses, and his skin had a strange, almost unnatural pale glow. His hands were covered by black gloves. When Amarka's cousin whispered, "Why is he wearing sunglasses at night?" Amarka didn't answer. She was lost in the excitement of her future life abroad. Chucka didn't stay long. He spoke briefly about taking Amarka to America the next day. He claimed her papers were ready and she would leave right away. Her parents didn't question how he had arranged everything so quickly. They were just happy that their daughter was going to live the dream they had always wanted for her. But Chucka's strange behavior wasn't over yet. Soon as they left Amarka's family home, he took her back to his house. But what Amarka didn't know was that Chucka wasn't just taking her to a life of luxury. He was taking her to a much darker fate. That night, as Amarka lay in his arms, Chucka's hunger became unbearable. He wasn't the man she had dreamed of. He was something else, something dark and dangerous. And when he drained the life out of her, Amarka never knew the terrible truth. Chucka wasn't just a wealthy man from abroad, he was a vampire. As the first light of morning broke through the trees, the village woke up to a strange silence. The usual sounds of roosters crowing and children playing were gone. People moved quietly through the village, whispering about the mysterious man who had come home after so many years, Chucka, the son who had disappeared, only to return as a shadow in Chucka's house. The air was thick with tension. His parents waited outside his room, hoping he would come out. But the hours passed, and still he did not open the door. His mother knocked gently, calling to him, "Chucka, my son, why don't you come out and eat? You have not spoken to us all day." There was no answer. His father worried, but still hopeful. "Try it again. Chucka, you have been in there for too long. The villagers want to see you. They are waiting to hear from you." But still, Chucka remained silent, locked away in his room. His strange behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. Why would a man who had been away for so long refuse to meet his people? Why was he hiding from them? It was only when the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the village, that Chucka finally emerged. He walked slowly, his footsteps soft and measured. He was still wearing the dark sunglasses, even though the night had fallen. His pale face gave off an eerie glow, and his hands, always covered by black gloves, looked strangely stiff. His parents stood before him, their faces filled with fear and confusion. "Chucka," his father said, "we are worried. You are not the same man who left this village all those years ago. What is happening to you?" Chucka smiled, but it was not a smile of warmth or comfort. It was cold and distant, like a man who had forgotten how to feel. "I'm fine, Papa," he replied, his voice lacking any true emotion. "Amarka is in America now, where she belongs." At the mention of Amarka's name, Chucka's mother gasped. "Where is she? Why didn't you bring her back? We need to see her. Our daughter is gone, and you act like nothing has happened. What has become of her?" Chucka turned his head, avoiding his mother's pleading gaze. "Amarka is fine. She is living the life she always wanted. She will not be coming back." But his parents knew that something was terribly wrong. They had seen Chucka bury Amarka's body with their own eyes. They had heard her scream, and yet here he was, telling them lies with such coldness, as though he had no care for the woman who had once been his bride. The villagers began to gossip. They spoke in hushed voices, sharing stories of Chucka's strange behavior. They whispered about the time he had arrived in the black car, hidden behind tinted windows, and how he had refused to greet them as if he were a stranger. There were rumors that he never ate, that he stayed up all night, walking around in the dark. But no one dared to speak openly. They were too afraid of what Chucka might become. One night, as the moon hung high in the sky, Chucka's hunger returned, fiercer than before. He could feel it growing inside him, a deep, gnawing emptiness that only blood could fill. He had already taken Amarka, but now his thirst for blood had become unbearable. He could not wait any longer. His parents were asleep, unaware of the danger that lurked in their own home. Chucka crept through the shadows, careful not to make a sound. He moved silently, like a predator stalking its prey. His eyes glowed red. In the darkness, his mind was clouded with the need to feed. He found the elderly housekeeper washing dishes in the kitchen. The old woman hummed softly to herself, unaware that Chucka was near. But Chucka was no longer the man she had known. It was something else, something dangerous, something monstrous. Without warning, Chucka attacked. His speed was unlike anything a human could achieve. He grabbed the housekeeper and sank his teeth into her neck, draining her life in an instant. The woman struggled, but she was no match for the strength of the creature that had once been Chuck as the housekeeper's body. Went limp, Chucka stood over her, breathing heavily. His mind was fogged with the aftertaste of blood, and he didn't care about the body lying at his feet. He didn't care about anything anymore. His transformation was complete. Just then, Chucka's parents, who had been awake and listening to the strange noises in the house, rushed into the kitchen. They froze in terror as they saw their son, covered in blood, standing over the lifeless body of the housekeeper. His eyes were glowing bright red, and his teeth were sharp and pointed. "What have you done?" Chucka's mother cried, her voice shaking with fear. "What are you? Who are you?" Chucka looked at her, but there was no love in his gaze. "I am Chucka," he said, his voice low and cold. "But I am no longer the man you knew." His father, trembling with fear, asked in a weak voice, "What have you become? You are not human anymore. You are a monster." Chucka didn't answer. Instead, he turned away from them, his eyes scanning the room for anything else he could feed on. He didn't care about the past or the family he had left behind. All that mattered now was his hunger, his thirst for blood. Just then there was a knock at the door. It was the housekeeper's son, who had come to escort his mother home. He called out her name, but when no one answered, he pushed the door open. What he saw in the kitchen made him freeze with fear. Chucka's parents stood behind him, paralyzed by shock as they realized that their son was now a creature of the night. A vampire. The villagers, too, had begun to understand the truth. They had seen Chucka's strange behavior, heard the rumors, and now they knew that the man they had once admired was no longer a man at all. He was something darker, something far more terrifying. Chucka's parents, unable to comprehend what had happened to their son, could only watch as he disappeared into the night. The village was no longer safe. Chucka was no longer the wealthy man who had come home to marry Amarka. He was a monster, and he had come to claim the village as his own. And so, the villagers learned a terrible lesson that sometimes the things we think we know are not what they seem. Chucka had returned, but he was not the man they had expected. He was something much worse, and the village would never be the same again.